Get ready to live fearlessly free with Heather Bunch.
Have you ever wondered why some women just seem to move through challenges with peace? You know, while you're over here replaying every decision 100 times in your mind, trying to fix it. Anyone besides me pulled that one? Do you ever feel like there's a part of you trust God with the outcome? And then there's this other part of you that's like, I need to plan, I need to push, I need to make it happen. Or maybe you're watching other entrepreneurs who seem so calm, they're just clear, they're really focused, and you're like, you can't help but think, what do they know that I don't know? Well, what if I told you the bravest women aren't fearless? They're just learning to think differently. Welcome to Live Fearlessly Free podcast. I'm your courageous coach, Heather Bunch, and I am here to help you, Christian women, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs go from feeling stuck, not enough, and fearful to taking focused, confident, and courageous action. Because we are growing ourselves, my friend, so that we can grow our business and fulfill the dream that God put in our heart. Now, we are kicking off a brand new series called Think Better, Live Braver. It is all about shifting the way we think so we can actually show up braver, we can lead stronger, and we can live freer lives so we can fulfill our purpose, my friend. And today we're going to be talking about the first mindset shift that's going to trigger the change. So today's going to be for you if you are tired of overthinking every step in your business or even your life. And if you desire to think with more clarity and be more courageous, even when things feel uncertain, and they do a lot, I have got you covered, my friend. And if you're ready to hold faith and fear, tension and truth, and still move forward with confidence, taking courageous action, this is your day, my friend. Now, for the longest time, I honestly saw leaders as having something I didn't. They had more skills, they had more confidence, they had more influence, they were more talented, they were more gifted. Like, I couldn't even name all the things that I thought that were better than me. And I just somehow got left without them. It seems like they just carried something extra. They had the secret sauce, the secret code that I hadn't cracked yet. And when I started life coaching, and I found myself in different rooms than I had been throughout my career, I started to notice something that actually surprised me. The women that were leading the rooms, they weren't necessarily more gifted. They weren't more qualified per se. They actually just thought better than I did. Their confidence didn't actually come from like having it all together. It came from the way that they managed their mind. And they thought differently about what was possible. And I just hadn't been doing that yet. And that's when it hit me. It all starts with our thinking. It all starts with our imagination. And the key is to learning to get our imagination working for us instead of against us. When we do that, things started to change. And let's be honest, this is a continual process. It is not a one and done. So what I want to talk to you about in this series is how when we think better, we can live braver. You see, when I started to shift my thoughts and started to think better, think of who I am in Christ and what God has created me to do and my identity, I started to be able to live a more courageous life and do more of what God has called me to do. When we think better, we live braver. So it's not about thinking more, but it's really about thinking better. See, courageous women don't let our thoughts run wild. We don't. We don't let our imagination run away with us. Anybody else done that one besides me? I did that. That's when I began fainting out of fear. That was my imagination running away with me of what all the ifs, and I couldn't do it, and this is impossible. But instead of letting our imagination run away with us, no, we renew our mind with the truth. And as I talked about in Hello Courageous, my book, The Gal's Guide to Delight and Discover and Direct Your Divine Life, it is about directing your imagination to work for you instead of against you. That is what we have to do. So most of us, when we're not living the brave life we want to, the courageous life we want to, we aren't stuck because we don't have enough strategy. Like, y'all know what to do. You've listened to the podcast. You read the books. You follow the stuff. You've got the ideas. But yet we can still remain stuck. No, we're stuck because of how we think about the strategy. We try to pray our way out of problems that actually require us to rewire new patterns of thought. You see, our faith grows when our thinking grows. And when our thinking shifts, our decisions shift. And when our decisions shift, our results begin to shift. So we go from stuck to strong. That is what this series is about. So over the next 6 weeks, we are going to talk about 6 mind shifts that we need to make to be the courageous women that think differently. And what that is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to work through our hardest moments and keep moving towards our purpose, even when we don't feel enough or we don't feel ready. It's going to help us stop chasing perfection and start creating with courage. We're going to stop clinging to what's not working and making space for what will. We're going to stop scattering our energy all over the place with shiny object syndromes, and we're going to start focusing with courage on where it counts. We are also going to feel the emotions that we feel as entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial roller coaster. And we're still going to be able to do what courage requires us to do. We're going to keep showing up bravely for the long haul, no matter how long it takes. So these are the thinking shifts that are going to separate us from stuck to strong, helping us build our businesses, lead our lives, walk in faith, in confidence, even when we are afraid, my friend. Because courage, bravery, it's not the absence of fear. It's doing the thing we're afraid to do anyways. So before we can think better, we have to, number one, stop thinking in extremes. Because so many of us, that's where we're stuck. We're trying to make life fit into either or boxes that God never built. So today we're going to be talking about what it looks like to hold faith and fear at the same time and not fall apart in the middle. So what do we need to do? What is this mindset shift we need to take? Mindset shift number one, we need to go from this or that thinking to both and thinking. You could say it's going from binary thinking to non-binary thinking. You see, This is the first mindset shift that courageous women need to make, because it starts to change everything about how we see ourselves. It starts to change how we see God and our calling. So what does this look like? This or that thinking keeps us trapped in extremes. Why? Because it's black and white thinking. It's all or nothing. It's either I'm confident or I'm scared. Either it's I'm trusting God or I'm taking action. Either it's I'm spiritual or I'm strategic. It's or. And it feels safe because, you know what? Our brain likes a sense of control. It is actually fear in a logical mind. That is what binary thinking is, black or white thinking, this or that thinking. Psychologists actually call it dichotomous thinking. Binary is an easier way to say it. This or that, honestly, is the way I like to say it. But what it is, it's our minds, it's our shortcut to avoid uncertainty. We do not like uncertainty. It shuts down our creativity. It shuts down our peace. It shuts down our growth. But we got to learn how to shift from this or that thinking, binary thinking, to both and thinking, or non-binary thinking. Courageous women learn to hold both and. It is ability to hold two truths at one time and being okay with that. So it could be, I can be scared and courageous at the same time. I can wait on God's timing and I can prepare in the meantime. I can rest and yet I can still be productive. I know this can kind of sound confusing, but what this really is maturity, to be able to hold both at the same time. Faith lives in the middle of this tension, not outside it. This is exactly what Jesus modeled for us so beautifully. I love Jesus. Jesus is the express image of the Father. And so when we look at Jesus, we are looking at the Father. And so Jesus, he was fully God and fully man. He carried divine authority and human emotion at the same time. He wept at Lazarus' tomb and he raised him from the dead. He felt afraid at Gethsemane before he was heading to the cross, and yet he still obeyed. When we move from binary thinking to non-binary thinking, or this or that thinking, to both and thinking, we are activating our prefrontal cortex. This is the part of our brain that helps us to think clearly, more creatively, and courageously, even when we're under pressure, my friend. Both and thinking isn't about ignoring fear. It's about letting faith lead while, you know what? We still hear fear's voice, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to teach you 3 courageous practices that are going to help you be able to shift from this or that thinking to both and thinking, from this binary thinking, black or white thinking, to non-binary thinking, this concept of being able to have these two tensions in holding them in one place. And so courageous practice number 1, acknowledge both without arguing with either. This, my friend, is a mental shift we have to make. This or that thinking makes us fight with ourselves. We're trying to shut down our emotion, so our faith can look stronger. But courage is not pretending. We don't have to pretend that we're not afraid. It's holding both truths and the feeling at the same time. The truth is, we can do all things through Christ, who strengthens us, even while we're afraid. And what this does is this starts to shift our mind, our thinking. It acknowledges what's really going on without actually arguing with it. Let's go to Jesus in Gethsemane, because I think this is one of the biggest examples that we can take away from this. And in Matthew 26:38 through 39, he says, "Then he said to them, 'My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me.' And he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, 'Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. And yet not as I will, but as you will.'" We can see Jesus in absolute anguish here. Is so much so that the scripture says he was sweating drops of blood. And science actually talks about that's so much stress that the capillaries broke and the blood seeped through his sweat. That is freaking serious fear, because he knew what was coming. The cross, one of the most hardest deaths that anybody could ever experience. And he knew that was coming. But he also knew why. And so he felt this anguish and this fear, and he still obeyed. Obedience in the middle of emotions. That is when your faith matures. When you are in the middle of these moments of I'm afraid, and yet I'm going to trust God. When you acknowledge both sides of what's true, because, our feelings, it is true, we are feeling what we're feeling. Again, we're shifting to this prefrontal cortex. This is that logical side of us. And what it does is it regulates our amygdala. That's the fear and emotional side of us. And when we can sit there, we can name it to tame it. Actually, Dr. Daniel Siegel talked and coined that phrase, name it to tame it. So saying, you know what, I feel anxious, and yet I'm still safe, calms our nervous system. So what does this look like as solopreneurs? You know what? You can feel nervous about that launch that's coming up, and you can still hit the publish button. You can be unsure about your next offer. Like, is it right? Is it all set? Do I have the pricing right? Is everything perfect? You know what? You can feel that and still keep showing up to serve people. You can feel absolutely unqualified to get on camera or to get on the stage. And you can still hit record, and you can still do that talk. Faith isn't the absence of butterflies. It is obedience, even when they are going crazy. When you start acknowledging both what you feel and what's true, what the truth is, it will naturally start to shift our language that comes out our mouth. And that, my friends, is where courage practice number 2 begins. We need to reframe with both and language. That is courageous practice number 2. Our words frame our world. So every time we're like either or, what we're doing is we're actually limiting what God can do. When we switch to and or both, it opens our mouth to speak courage instead of fear. So even though we're feeling afraid, our mouth is really speaking the truth of what God says. So this shift goes from our mind to our mouth. Now, when you begin to shape what you say, and what you say will actually strengthen what you believe. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Either or shuts the door, and leaves room for faith. So let's use some examples. How do we shift our language. So say you're not feeling ready about doing something. We naturally would be like, oh, I'm either ready or I'm not. But shifting your language is, you know what? I'm learning and I'm growing as I go. I remember my mentor was talking about, I think it was Lisa Sasevich was the one who said this, like you're building the plane as you're flying it, okay? It's a crazy concept. But you know what? It actually works. Another idea, either this is going to work or it's going to fail. That is binary thinking. That is or thinking. It's this or it's that. It's this or it's that. But you know what? We need to shift our language to, you know what? This is going to stretch me and it might still succeed. We can be like in the middle of something and sometimes with Christians, we can be a little like, I'm going to pray, I'm going to let God, right? Well, we could either trust God or take action. We could feel like we're stuck in the middle. And if somehow we take action, that's less Christian-like. But we got to be over here trusting God and praying and getting on our face. Well, you know what? I can trust God and I can take action. I can pray and I can take action. When your language changes, your lens changes. How you see things changes. Things will open up for you. This or that language activates the brain's fear circuit. Just does. It starts to stifle our creativity because it wants certainty and it wants control. But and language activates again that dang prefrontal cortex. This thing is so important. It increases our flexibility and it makes us able to make better decisions because we're like calmer about it instead of in freak out, fight mode. Reframing your words, my friend, builds new neural pathways. It is renewing our mind. We are training our brain to see obstacles as opportunities. What can this obstacle make possible? That is a great book. The Obstacle is the Way. So, you can build your business and you can raise your babies. You can learn marketing and you can trust Father for clients. You can be tired and you are still called, my friend. You can launch something new and not have every detail figured out. And the language gives you permission to grow without all the dang guilt that can come with it. When our language begins to line up with the truth that God says about us, it actually shows us how we can live, how we can move, and how we can take action. And that, my friend, leads me to courageous practice number 3. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. So far, my friend, we have gone from the mental shift to our mouth shifting, the language shifting. Now we're going to go into a movement shift, okay? Because both and thinking isn't about balance. It's about bravery. Again, it is learning to hold the fear, what we're feeling, and the faith to keep moving anyways. Courageous women don't wait for comfort. We move through the discomfort with purpose. Nothing of significance happens in our comfort zone, my friend. We have got to get out of it. And we have got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is the place that we need to live. And trust me, it's dang hard. I feel this all the time. Like I talk about this, but I am preaching to me because there are so many days I wake up with imposter syndrome. What do you think you're doing? Can you really do this? All the things. But I have been embracing this both and thinking like, yes, I am feeling this, but I am still going to post a podcast. I am still going to make the reels. I am still going to do the offer. I am still going to show up for my Courageous Club members. Whether I feel like I'm the right one or can do it all or not. We started, my friend, with the thoughts, remember? And now we're showing up with our words, but we got to take it to our actions. We can't just think about it. We can't just talk about it. We have to move. Our movement has to change. That is how faith takes form, through action. Doing is what courage requires, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Look, it is just going to be uncomfortable. That's the bottom line. Courage is never comfortable, ever. Hebrews 12:2. This is going to help anchor you, my friend. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the originator and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. I'm going back to Jesus because Jesus is my perfect example, right? Jesus didn't love pain, but he loved the purpose. The cross was agony, pain, but it was the joy of what he would accomplish that kept him moving to the cross, that kept him fulfilling his purpose. He showed up with courage, not because it was comfortable, but he was committed to us and what it would do for us. Courage is the bridge from fear to our purpose. Listen, discomfort, we're going to start creating some new neural pathways, my friend. Every time you act courageously when you are uncomfortable, your brain is rewiring itself to associate bravery with growth instead of fear. Again, our prefrontal cortex, that thinking part of us, lights up when we face hard things on purpose. It's the courage center in action. So the more that we practice both and thinking, the more our brain is going to learn that fear and forward motion, they can coexist. We can hold both at the same time. And we're going to get more comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling. So remember, you can feel fear and still send the proposal. You can feel resistance and still record the podcast. You can feel uncertain and you can still walk in obedience. Bravery is not being fearless. Like, I know I say live fearlessly free, but what I'm really saying is that you can be faithful in the face of fear. The dream God gave you will always require you to move before you feel ready. So, let's look back at what we learned about both and thinking. This mindset shift that helps you think better so you can live braver, doing the things that God has called you to do. So courage practice number 1, acknowledge both without arguing for either. This is our mindset shift right here. This is when our changing our thoughts. Remember, Jesus showed up in Gethsemane and he felt the fear and he was still obedient. Obedience in the middle of our emotion, that is where our faith starts maturing, my friend. Courage practice number 2, reframe with both and language. This is getting our mouth involved here. The words we say shape our world, the world we experience. When we practice both and thinking, our mouth has to start getting involved. Our mouth starts speaking courage even before we feel it. Courage practice number 3. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is the movement piece. Courage isn't comfortable. It's just not. It is commitment. It's the bridge between our fear and our purpose. My friends, when we think better, we are training our minds, our mouth, and our movements to align with the truth. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Because courageous women don't wait until we're till we feel ready. We act on what is the truth. So, courageous action. We're going to put this into action this week. I want you to practice both and thinking in your mind, in your mouth, and in your movements. So when you catch yourself thinking in extremes, I want you to pause and I want you to name both. What are you feeling and what is the truth? I feel afraid and I know God is with me. I feel like an imposter, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So then I want you to use your mouth to reframe your words into both and language. Remember, trade this or, either or, for both and. I can trust God and I can take action. Like literally say that out your mouth. That is what I'm saying. So it's not just thinking, now you're moving into your mouth. I can do this, I can feel this, and I can do that. Okay? I can feel afraid and God is with me. I'm feeling that imposter syndrome, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now you've got to move it to your actions, my friend. Can't just stay in our mind, can't just stay in our mouth. So when the discomfort shows up, don't run from it. Don't go procrastinate. Don't get into shiny object syndrome, doing all the other things. Do the thing that feels most uncomfortable. Remind yourself, courage isn't comfort, it's commitment. Hold both that fear and that faith at the same time. That is what courage is requiring of you. So when you're in that moment, you need to do something that moves the needle forward. Literally, you're doing the opposite of what you don't want to do. Do the thing. Because brave thinking isn't about ignoring the fear. It is about inviting faith to sit beside you while you take action. Now, if you are stuck, and this is that mindset where you're really stuck in that or thinking, that binary thinking, that this or that thinking, if you have been really having that tug of war of faith and fear, but you are ready to stop thinking about courage and you actually want to start living it, I want you to grab my free cheat sheet, Beat Procrastination. You're going to go to hellocourageous.com/beat-it. hellocourageous.com/beat-it. This is going to help you break those mental loops really quick. You're going to move through the fear. You're going to take action towards your God-given dreams that He put in your heart, and you do it lickety-split. This is literally a quick literal cheat sheet just to get you moving quick. Okay? So next time, we will talk about how courageous women stop chasing perfection and start creating with courage. We're going to learn how to flip the script on fear, my friend, so you can move forward even when things don't go as planned. You are not going to want to miss it. You have got this, my friend, and Father's got you. I just want to thank you a bunch for listening or for watching. Until next time, I want you to think better so you can live braver.